I have a question for everybody who's considering starting a brand or who recently started a brand, and that question is, why? This planet has enough clothing on it. It has more than enough. Nobody needs to be buying new clothes. The world is on fire, but we're still buying shoes. We could all just shop secondhand forever and we wouldn't have a problem. I love shopping secondhand anyway. So why are you making new clothes? If your answer is just to make some money, I think you've missed my point. It's very hard to make money in the clothing business, and I'm going to go over some of the details of things that you actually have to do if you want to make money in the clothing business, and you might not be ready to do all of those things. So when I ask you why you're starting a brand, I'm not just asking, oh, because you have a following on social media, or oh, you have a connection to a factory and you think you can get really good deals on fabric. No. Making money is another thing, and you probably can't. But why should your brand exist? Why are you making new clothes? What is that going to contribute to planet Earth? Why would people buy your clothes? Why are you starting a brand? If your idea is just to make basics, but no, probably not. There are thousands of brands making basics today. Why are you making basics? Nobody wants that. What is your brand doing that isn't already being done by 1,000 brands? The first answer that should be coming to mind for most of you is, I have an artistic vision. I'm a designer. I want to design clothes. I have a few follow-up questions for you. Do you really have an artistic vision? Really? Do you really? Do you have a vision that can only be expressed through clothing? Because for most people, if you have something to say, the best way to say it is to say it or to write it. How are you going to express yourself through clothing? Because maybe you think you know how to do that, but really, stop, think. Are you making historical references? Does your silhouette say something that words can't? Do you have a unique way of playing with textures or colors or patterns? Do you really think you have something to do that isn't being done already? Maybe you do. If you do, I look forward to seeing it. If you don't, I ask again, why are you starting a brand? There are other valid reasons to start a brand. Maybe you have a personal itch to scratch. You haven't seen any brand do designer clothing for men under 5'6", or you haven't seen any brand do plus-sized workwear. Oh, no, you have seen brands do plus-sized workwear. Maybe you haven't seen a brand do tuxedos based on a pattern for larger guys. Maybe you haven't seen a brand make a certain type of clothing in your country, and you want to make the same clothes you like made abroad, except locally. That's a reason. But really, is that why you want to make a brand? Or is it really because you want to be known as somebody who owns a brand? Do you want people to think that you're an important player in the fashion industry? Is that what you're going for? Because that's not a good reason to start a brand. I saw a guy on Instagram a while back who tried on the first sweater his brand ever made in a small, and a medium, and a large, and an extra large. And every time he tried a different one on, he said, oh, I like the way this fits in the body, but the sleeves are too long. Or, oh, I like this for a more oversized look. He liked each size in different ways, and his usual preferred size didn't do anything particularly special for him. All of them were fine. And that got me thinking, if he didn't know exactly how he wanted that sweater to come out, then why did he start a brand? Honestly, the problem was more likely that he didn't know how to grade a pattern. He just farmed it out to somebody, and that person charged a lot of money because pattern making and pattern grading are very expensive. So he didn't want to iterate ad infinitum to get the perfect cut. He just got something that worked well enough, and he said, fine. I actually ended up DMing that guy. We had a pretty good conversation. And I do believe that he's acting in good faith. He's trying to make good clothing. But it really got the idea in my mind that most people who start brands don't have a good reason. Do you know what it takes to start a brand? Do you know how to make patterns, grade patterns? Do you even know what a pattern is? Do you have a supply chain strategy? Do you have fabric suppliers you want to work with? Do you have factories you want to work with? Some of those factories will outsource labor to other factories. Are you going to go through and check all of those factories yourself? How are you going to make sure that your factories aren't hiring slave labor? That's harder than it sounds. It sounds like just don't hire slaves, but because your factories will use other factories and contract out work multiple times over, it's actually a pretty hard challenge in 2025 to actually make sure you're not using slave labor. Are you willing to do that work? If not, is it worth the risk? Do you really want to start a brand that might contribute to the slave labor we've seen abroad, to the sweatshops, to the absolutely unbelievably bad working conditions we've seen? Is that what you want to do? So you have somebody else worry about pattern making. You have somebody else worry about supply chain. Hire one factory and hope that they do a pretty good job. What's next? You probably also want to farm out to an accountant. Do you want to do the accounting yourself? Maybe you love accounting. Is that why you're starting a brand, so you can do all the accounting yourself? What about marketing? If you have 100,000 followers on social media, that's easy marketing, right? Not really. You're just one influencer. You need to find ways to actually market your clothes. I've seen a lot of influencers start brands, and the influencer has a ton of followers and the brand never gets more than a couple thousand. So maybe you have a bunch of influencer friends and you want to send them all free product. Or maybe you have some other in for really good marketing. Maybe you have a marketing firm you want to work with. Maybe you outsource that too. But marketing is expensive. If you want to send 100 products to 100 different influencers, that might be good marketing, but it's also going to cost you 100 units. And unless you have some big investors, you're probably doing a pretty small production run. Fun fact, when you're starting a brand, nobody really expects you to sell more than 1/3 of your pieces. You're not going to sell out. You're lucky if you sell 1/3 of your pieces. There is a lot of financial risk in starting a brand. You have to account for that risk with good marketing, good accounting, and probably investment. Do you have an investor lined up? Do you really have enough money in your bank account to start a brand? If you don't have an investor lined up, you're going to have to do small batch after small batch after small batch. And it's really hard to grow making a few pieces at a time. Small batches are also more expensive. If you're making 100 pieces, each piece is going to be very expensive. If you're making 1,000,000 pieces, each piece is going to be very cheap. J. Crew has incredibly low production costs and gets very good deals on fabric. This jacket is from J. Crew. They have a relationship with Abraham Moon. They can get Abraham Moon fabric for cheaper than you can. They can develop custom fabrics with Abraham Moon. Abraham Moon wants to keep J. Crew happy. Abraham Moon does not know who you are. So you might end up paying 10 times as much as J. Crew to have a piece made. Do you want to do something high quality? Do you want to do something low quality? In any event, it's going to be expensive. Maybe you do have investors. If so, good for you, but they expect you to give them a return. And now you need to charge extra or find a way to make more money to keep them happy. Keeping investors happy is a social problem, among other things. If you fuck up a brand and lose their money, they're going to resent you. And in the future, you're going to have a hard time finding new investors because you weren't responsible the first time around. So we've just listed a bunch of things that you're probably not going to do yourself. What are you going to do yourself? What are you doing that's really going to add so much value that you needed to start a new brand? If you're just going to farm out every aspect of owning a brand except going to parties and telling people you own a brand, then you don't really own a brand. As a lawyer, I once worked with a company that handles all of this, makes the patterns, finds the factories, sells the pieces to department stores for you, finds places to store the clothing, handles all of the things you don't want to do. Do you want to do all of that yourself? Because if you're farming out every aspect, you're not going to make any money, nobody's going to care. Why are you polluting the planet with more clothes nobody wants? If you're only starting the brand for money or for social clout or for some other stupid reason like that, Please, I beg of you, don't. What I might want to do next is reach out to a few brand founders. And I know some brand founders who are doing good things. And I want to talk to them and talk about why they started a brand. Is there really a good reason? And I intend to be pretty tough on them. Like I said, most people are not starting a brand for any worthwhile reason. I think most people who start brands don't know what they're getting themselves into. They don't know how to handle supply chain. They don't know how to handle marketing. They don't know how to handle accounting. They don't know how to handle pattern making and design. They just want to own a brand. So I want to interview a few brand founders and ask them very seriously, why did you start your brand? And I don't want those to be softball interviews. I want them to prove to me that their brand was worth starting. Is that a series that you guys actually want to see? If I do that, are you guys gonna like, comment, share, subscribe? Is that a series you guys actually want to see? Do you want to see hardball interviews with brand founders? Because I'll do it. Leave a comment, tell me what you want to see. And if a lot of you want to see that kind of series, I'll do it. I already have a couple of friends in mind. I can ask them what they actually do themselves. I can ask them all of those hard questions, and I can find out why their brand exists. So let me know. Please leave a comment. Tell me what you're thinking. If you own a brand, tell me why the fuck you started it. And if you couldn't answer these questions, then please, for the love of God, don't start a brand.